at any given point in time, and this is across some lifetime. In some lifetime, person A, person B. Person A does a lot of good deeds. Person B does a lot of so-called inappropriate deeds. When somebody reciprocates and you're doing some action, it gets reinforced. And psychology tells us that there is a reinforcement that happens to the brain. If you were born in the India of 65 versus if you were born in the India of 2005, you're born in India, but you're born in two different times and hugely different concepts. So by prarabdha, you had brought the prarabdha that you are not going to be so good at studies, as compared to a set of parents who will understand who my child is, what my child is capable of, and how can I work scientifically with my child to get my child to its maximum potential. There is a destiny-oriented element of karma that we bring to this life, but there is a karma that is in our hands. Somewhere even in this modern life, this whole concept of the week starting from Monday itself is so false. The first day of the week, according to our tradition, is Ravivar, Sun's day. Now, you may have a very heavily loaded positive prarabdha, and that keeps supporting you, and at times your fear doesn't come true. The shwasa, or the breath in our body, constantly functions. It doesn't say, should I or should I not be? Now think of this, that if you were living in the forest or in the wild, and if you had to fend for yourself, would you not discover which plant is poisonous, which is not? So somewhere, because of all the layers of comfort and the isolation that we have from the consequences of our choice, we do what we do. You are under the influence of the macro. So if you are experiencing a certain stuckness, certain set of challenges, understand that either from your previous lifetimes or the sum total of your life is contributing to it. Okay. Also participate by changing habits. Right? So the macro applies, but we can influence the micro at some point in time. What could you do? Whether it is an unread book that has been lying there, or an unsolved relationship issue that is there, or there is some other thing which you have left incomplete. If it's no more relevant to your life, then cut it out, clean the space, clean the clutter. I read something somewhere a few days back which said the right time to plant a tree was 25 years back.
Om Tridevibhyo Namaha.
Om Tridevibhyo Namaha.
Welcome everyone to Trishakti Healing. Let me begin with a thought today. I have been ruminating on this aspect for a few days now, and what struck me is that our tomorrow is not being shaped by the big decisions that we plan. It's being shaped by the tiny choices we make, maybe in as little as the last 12 hours. It's not the goals. It's sometimes not the dreams. It's perhaps not the spiritual beliefs too. It's those tiny, almost invisible actions. Maybe the tone we used this morning, or the message that I ignored, or the person you judged silently, or the lie we told ourselves saying just this once. Or perhaps it's the moment where we chose anger over patience. These are creating our tomorrow. We think karma is a cosmic accounting system somewhere in the sky. It's maybe not. Karma can be shockingly boring, or sometimes even shockingly immediate. It is the way we speak with the person we live with. It's that tiny habit we don't question. It's the thought that we repeat so often that it becomes our personality. And it's also that energy that we leave behind in every small interaction. The destiny is not built in dramatic moments. It's built in these micro moments. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The karma that is shaping our lives the most is the karma that we are not even noticing we're creating. It is not about mythological karma today. This episode is not so much about moral or religious karma. We're going to talk about the daily life karma, the kind that shows up in our relationships, the moods, our patterns, and the storyline that our life keeps repeating. So welcome to today's podcast on our platform, Trishakti Healing. And once again, to throw light on questions that we have today is our Puja Dada, Shri Sai Kumar Chandran. Pranam Dada.
Namaste, Bini, and thank you. It's a very interesting topic that you guys have chosen for today. I was very intrigued with all the questions that came up because normally karma gets spoken about so much in terms of destiny, etc. And we've also covered that subject a lot.
Yes.
But your title, where you specifically said karma for daily life, I
Yes.
said this is going to be a very interesting and very practical conversation, hard hitting perhaps also.
Yes,
So
Dada.
thank you for this.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dada. Now, while I have a whole list of eager beaver questions that I want to throw at you, could you please first demystify this word karma and how it's been explained to us through the Sankhya philosophy and how it relates to our daily lives? Just the word karma without any mysticism, any kind of fog, or any kind of scare or fear.
Totally. I think a very good point for us to start this conversation. Somewhere today, I think that answer is also important because you clearly see three distinctive set of people. The non-believers who say there is nothing like karma and no destiny and nothing is going to impact our life, we'll do whatever it is. And then they are also saying that, it's the Kali Yuga we are living in and this is what we need to do. And on the other side, there are those fatalists who say, I am completely log jammed and there is nothing that I can do. And then there is a confused bunch in between. So I think perfect question for that, Miri. So practically, let's understand this. So practically, there are two shapes and sizes in which we need to understand karma.
Okay.
The first is the traditional understanding of destiny, fate, and how our life itself is a beautiful mathematical conjuncture. And when I say mathematical, there is the kundali of a person born at a certain point in time, at a certain place, and how the placement of those grahas are helping a person understand what are the supporting and the challenging situation that the person will experience in life. So there is a karma in definition of that. Then there is a karma when we say according to the dharmas of our life, we need to perform certain karmas, the actions of life. So I think those are the two ways that every individual needs to understand. So first, understanding what is that the karma from the definition of what we bring. And that's where words like the sanchit karma, prarabdha karma, the kriyaman karma and agami karma become important. So if you look at what our sages have taught us, and they've also given us a very clear understanding and evidence of this. So let's take two individuals at any given point in time, and this is across some lifetime. In some lifetime, person A, person B.
Yeah.
Person A does a lot of good deeds. Person B does a lot of so-called inappropriate deeds which hurt others. And I'm clearly saying those inappropriate deeds are things which hurt others. It could be hurting another individual, the society. It could be hurting animals. It could be hurting nature, etc. Now, and that's where then possibly an act of cruelty, etc. is it called. So let's say the first person is doing acts of kindness and the second person is doing acts of cruelty. When they are in that process of doing continuous karma, what will happen is slowly over a period of time, the person who's used to doing kindness will keep on imbibing that element of kindness in them, because when people do acts of kindness, somewhere or the other, nature reciprocates. It may not always, but people and nature may reciprocate. So, meaning what happens when somebody reciprocates and you're doing some action, it gets reinforced. And psychology tells us that there is a reinforcement that happens to the brain, right?
Yes.
So you do something, you get a positive reinforcement, it gets further reinforced and you do more and more of that.
True.
On the other side, when the negative person is doing certain things, let's say cruelty in this case, maybe as the person is doing cruelty, the person derives some sadistic pleasure out of it.
Yes.
Or the person derives some sense of false control on things.
Yes.
People fear them. When they do that, people fear them. That comes back at a feedback. That cruelty or that element further gets reinforced. So these two elements. So what is happening to these individuals? One is they are getting some result from the environment, right? That's the phala that they are getting.
Correct.
But also that virtue or value is getting further and internalized in them. That is how the samskara is getting formed. Is this clear?
Yeah.
So person takes an action, there is a result that they get, but there is a samskara also that is coming into them, because of which their personality itself is changing. Their motives are changing in psychological terms.
Right.
However, what our Sankhya philosophy teaches us something beautiful, that when we take an action, and especially those actions which are repeatedly taken over a long period of time, also actions which are major in life. You don't experience the phala of all of that in the same lifetime. Some of that is carried over a period of time. So let's say these two people who did the kindness and the cruelty act, they did get some results in that lifetime. Some samskara got internalized into them, but they also carry that to another X lifetime. And why? Because whatever was the result that they did not experience, or as we say, jo bhoga nahi, what they did not experience or get in their lifetime, it goes into the sanchit karma. Visualize sanchit karma as a big bank account. From that bank account, every time a soul comes to earth, that consciousness is going to take a certain aspect of that karma based on the timing of the birth, the mathematical conjuncture of what are the other lives that it is going to be connected with.
Okay.
So from the bank account, sanchit karma, it's going to bring certain prarabdha karma to this lifetime. A little bit of good to experience, a little bit of average to experience, a little bit of not so good to experience. That's your current bank account of this lifetime. So from the bigger bank account, you're bringing that. And now the individual goes through life experiencing that prarabdha karma. So it will shape. So it can shape the kind of parents you're born to, the country you're born in, the kind of circumstances you're born in. Like I've given this example so many times. If you were born in the India of 65 versus if you were born in the India of 2005, you're born in India, but you're born in two different times and hugely different concepts. If in 65 you had said the concept of mobile telephony, somebody would have laughed. In 2005, you're possibly born and your first photograph is getting clicked on a mobile telephone.
Right.
Isn't it? So like that. So that's the way for us to understand that the traditional definition of how karma gets formulated. Is this clear? And then your planetary positions, etc., are in a way going to help you experience that. The pratikul, anukul conditions, or what you call the supporting conditions or the challenging conditions, they will come from there.
Right.
However, we are also born into this lifetime with a whole host of dharmas, our connections. You're child to someone, you're sibling to someone, you're a society, citizen in the society. You may also choose to be a student in a certain space, a particular kind of a career you will choose, some spouse you will choose. You may or may not have children, whichever way, you'll have friends. Now, with respect to those, you have to perform certain karmas. With respect to your own self, you have to perform some karmas. Now, here are the other aspect of karmas. Here is what you are supposed to do. And some of what you're supposed to do also will then influence over a period of time what you gain. You remember those two people who did the kindness and the cruelty? You are those people. So you have the choices to do the positive things or the negative things. And whenever you do those things, again, those samskaras are going to impact you. And again, the results are going to impact you. So what you brought from your bank account is impacting you anyways. But what you do here is also going to impact you.
Okay.
Make sense? So let's take 3 simple examples for this. A child is born and the planetary positions of the child are slightly unfortunate for studies.
Okay.
It says the child will not be so bright. However, over a period of time, if the person works hard, the person can get some results. Now the child has 2 choices. I am not understanding this and leave it. Parents also have that choice. The child is not understanding this. Let this go easy on the child. The other is devising a rigorous regime. And we know that the brain learns and improves over a period of time. So the person goes practice. And at some point in time, if another very talented child had not worked as hard as this child who's not as talented can be much better than that other person. Isn't it? So by prarabdha, you had brought the prarabdha that you are not going to be so good at studies. But by your current karmas, you created that destiny for yourself. Like my marathon coach says this so beautifully, that at some point in time, consistency will beat talent.
True.
If talent is lazy, if talent takes things for granted, isn't it? So that's a student. Similarly, for the parent, if the parent is going to put constant pressure on the child and try to make the child something that the child is not, as compared to a set of parents who will understand who my child is, what my child is capable of, and how can I work scientifically with my child to get my child to its maximum potential. Not the maximum potential I want to get, but its maximum potential.
True.
You see, there also, a child could be absolutely just average, but a brilliant parenting can create brilliant results for that average child. And an absolutely talented child, sometimes, we use the term wasted genius.
Hmm.
There are so many wasted geniuses in this world because of the parents' actions. Right? So, Prarabdha brought genius, but parenting made it Anda. Okay? Or let's take a third example. You're constantly, as a professional, you're constantly focused on making your boss happy. You're not focusing on impacting your own skill sets or building beautiful networks, connections, enhancing yourself. 3 years you rigorously put in thinking that everything in career will happen because of this boss changes. What will happen then? Now you're left without relationships and everything, right? So you got a good job, you got a good organization to work with, all of that was from your destiny, but you spent the time in wrong things. Now that boss goes, some new person comes and he absolutely doesn't like you. So the result from coming from your prarabdha karma changed. And your current karmas had not created that positivity for you. So your friends hate you, your colleagues hate you, others hate you. Everybody supports this new boss. You get fired. Simple example. So hope this clarifies that there is a destiny-oriented element of karma that we bring to this life, but there is a karma that is in our hands. What we are doing, how we are tackling life, and that can then turn an average situation to good for us. May not become brilliant. An average situation can become good. But you can come with a brilliant situation, but definitely make it poor because of your actions. You may still get some results because your prarabdha gave you that result, but you may completely throw it away. And we have so many times seen children born into super successful families destroy the family's wealth.
Yes.
One car accident, one drunken evening, one unlawful activity,
and
one bad business choice. That's all it takes.
True that.
So I'll rest there, hoping that people have got an example of understanding that yes, you should pay attention. And between what I said, between the fatalists who say everything is the prarabdha karma or destiny, and between the nihilists who say there is nothing like that, you need to come to a midpoint, say that, look, I am born with a certain context, circumstances in a certain place, so that context impacts me all the time. Right? You don't want to believe in destiny, don't believe in destiny, believe in context, believe in strengths, believe in weaknesses, believe in support system. Right? And within that, you have to perform what you need to perform to make the most of your life.
Very true. Very true. So well said. So sometimes I feel perhaps karma begins long before action. It's something like the inner weather of your mind, which is why perhaps these small everyday choices matter more than big life decisions. Is that
Quite
also
as much.
true?
Absolutely.
It's really striking, Dada, in terms of what you're saying, that it isn't just created by what we are doing. It's also, in these subtle moments, these subtle choices that we are making, that our karma is getting accumulated, or rather created. Would it be true if I say that?
Absolutely. Newton's third law, every action has an equal and opposite reaction. You ping at life. You think life is not going to ping back at you?
It will.
You're going to yell at life. You think life is not going to yell at you?
True.
You're going to smile at life. You think life is not going to smile at you?
So beautiful. Yes.
Yeah? If you submit to life, you think life will not hold your hands?
No. Yes.
So that's what we need to understand, right? There is something beyond us. You call it nature, you call it bhutas, tattvas, you call it eternal consciousness, you call it God, you call it Mahadeva, you call it Tridevi, you call it whatever. You call it Paramananda, you call it Parabrahma. There is that power out there. And it is listening to you, it is watching you, and it is ready for the reaction to every action. And everything is connected. Everything is energy. We have learned this, right? Energy is neither created nor destroyed.
Sorry.
It only changes form from one to another.
Another.
Our body is energy. This universe is energy. And everything is in that constant state of energy, give and take. Which energy is condensed, densed, and solidified versus which energy is flowing and free and supportive, or flowing and restless and destructive. All of this is around us. And each of our choices is causing that. You choose to have a peaceful Monday morning. Do you think the rest of your week has a greater chance of being peaceful?
Totally.
You hate your Monday morning. And you then expect your week to give you fantastic results. Somewhere even in this modern life, this whole concept of the week starting from Monday itself is so false. The first day of the week, according to our tradition, is Ravivar, Sun's day.
Sun's day.
Right? Most of us, what do we do in modern life? We are lazing and wasting our Sundays. Sunday should be your most productive day. Will that not have an impact on us? Yes, it does. It does. So these are some subtle things of life that we need to understand.
What strikes me in what you're saying is the word choice.
True.
So how, I just want to take this deeper and ask you, how do these choices that we make, about our thoughts, our small reactions, or even the tone of our voice, how do these create karmic patterns without us realizing it?
That's a very interesting question. I think what we need to understand is 5 areas from there that help us. Okay. We need to understand thoughts. We need to understand speech. We need to understand the choices that we make. We need to understand the reactions that we give and the relationships that we have. Human existence is in between all of these. Right? The thoughts, the speech, the choices, the reactions, and the relationships that we have. In our Shastric terms, we will basically say the Manasa Karma, the Vaka Karma, the Vikalpa Karma, the Pratikriya Karma, and the Sambandha Karma. These 5. So, let's take an example of thought. You're constantly responding to your environment with fear. What will happen? Are you making fear your reality?
Yes.
Now, you may have a very heavily loaded positive prarabdha, and that keeps supporting you, and at times your fear doesn't come true. But if you keep hitting at life with fear and disbelief, because fear is a form of disbelief, you hit it with fear and disbelief, and there comes confusion. What is your reality going to become? Right? So your Manasa Karma is going to create this. On the other hand, let's say speech. You're constantly involved in micro lies. You don't have to speak big lies. You can speak small lies. Right? Or you can create micro hurt. Right? Small change of tone. All of this, right? You can create a situation where you hide through your speech. You manipulate through your speech. When you do all of this Vaka Karma, what is going to happen? You're going to create more confusion, right?
True.
And that's where there are so many psychologists and leaders also who say genuineness matters. Right? When you really don't understand that you're taking diplomacy too far, hiding too far, wearing a mask too far, you're going to create a challenge for yourself. In fact, there are so many people who take pride in the fact that they wear so many masks. Like I said, you do that to life. You think life is not going to play back to you. You wear a mask with life. Life is going to come wearing another few set of masks. So you meet people like that. Yes. Right? So that's how, the liar will attract a liar.
It impacts your aura somewhere. It's in the aura. I think it gets trapped.
Absolutely. It's in your aura. If you stay long enough in a room, in the office, at your work desk, at your home, in your car, it just shows up. So many times and do this interesting experiment. Take a look at 3 or 4 people around you who you meet constantly and who you can monitor,
Hmm.
look at the happy ones and look at the sad ones.
Hmm.
And if they all drive, look at the cars of the happy ones and the sad ones.
Oh,
Invariably, the sad ones will have dents on their car.
oh yes. We should talk about this sometime.
It's a very interesting thing. So you understand? So that pattern of thought and speech
Oh
is
yes.
going to create these challenges for you. And then comes the fact that those thoughts and that speech is going to crystallize into your choices, your vikalpa karma.
True.
Right? So if you're going to make suboptimal choices, if you're going to constantly pacify, never stand up for something, at some point in time, you're going to get victimized. But on the other side, you're always the aggressor. You're constantly in a bloodbath moment. What will happen? Somebody will find a chance to stab you and stab you. That's how life is. So your choices are there. And then there are those intelligent actions. In fact, I often tell the story that, if you were to be one of these three friends, who will you be? The first one is a friend called why this. There are some of us who constantly say, why this? Why to me? Why now? Right? Then there is this other friend who says, so what? Something has happened, so what? Everything is so what? Chalo, let's go. Let's keep going. Then the third one is the one who says, what next? Who would you want to be in your life? The one who constantly keeps saying, why this? So what? Or what next? Because what next is the person who brings your emotional and rational choices together and says, I am going to focus on what I can do with life.
True.
Neither I am going to get too bogged down with what life says. Why now? Why this? Or I'm not going to write off life by saying, so what? But I'm going to give that due attention.
Give it a direction.
Yeah. Like, okay, you're feeling unwell today.
Hmm.
Why now? Why this? I have such important meeting. So what if I'm unwell? I will do this. The third person says, okay, what next? How do I make sure that I control the impact of the illness, but I also do what I need to do? What am I going to regulate? How am I going to regulate my energy? Isn't it? So which one of these three friends would you want to be is a question you can constantly ask yourself. Right? And then coming back to the 5 things that I was talking about. So from the manas karma, the vak karma, and the vikalpa karma, then you come down to your pratikriya. Pratikriya karma. Your choices are then also going to take the shape of your reactions. Right?
Yes.
And then, in popular leadership language, we keep talking about reaction versus responding. So if your choices are healthy, constructive, and they are much in time, you're going to come across as somebody responding instead of somebody reactive.
Yes.
But if your choices are going to be knee-jerk, then you'll come across as a reactive person. And all of this sum total impacts every single relationship around you. And all of this is relationship. From the relationship you have with yourself, to your home, to your spouse, or your rest of your family, your friends, your society, the road that you drive on, the organization you work in, the bosses that you have, the colleagues that you have, the clients that you have, the customers that you work with. So it's a constant movement between these.
And such a beautiful train of thoughts, actually. I'm just thinking, I rested on the word choice, and then you spoke about how, we pick up these little responses that we have because we're making intelligent choices, and that's giving us some kind of direction. And that is also impacting us as people.
And if you were to put these 5 things as the 5 points in a pentagon, the 5 corners, all of these are connected to each other. It's not that it's sequential. Your choices are impacting your reactions, but your reactions are also impacting your thoughts.
Yes.
Your thoughts are impacting your relationships, but your relationships are also impacting your speech. Your speech is impacting your relationship, but your, all the other things. So all of those connections are true. So any one of these factors is impacting the other 4 at any given point in time.
True.
Or any 4 can be impacting one factor at any given point in time. So that's the complex choices, or rather complex set of factors that we need to consider in our daily karmas. Keep your thoughts clean separately. Keep your speech clean separately. Keep your choices clean separately. Keep your reactions clean separately. Keep your relationships clean separately. Separate them all out and clean each one of them for their own self. And then beautifully bring them together. Because if you try to just clean one of these in isolation, the challenges in all the other places are going to feed in. And this is what happens with a lot of people who attempt change. They don't understand that you have to change your thoughts, change your speech, change your choices, change your reaction, change your relationships, each one of them simultaneously.
Yes.
There is no serial change in this. It has to be a parallel, simultaneous war foot action if you want to change something. You want to lose weight, you have to change all these 5. You want to become a disciplined human being, you have to change all these 5. You want to...
So also at work, if one
Yeah.
wants to just bring about any professional
Oh,
shift.
beautiful. And I must tell you this very recent incident. Somebody who's known me came to me, said, sir, can you please take a look at my kundali and my children's kundali, and there are these 4 or 5 set of things that we need to do, that we are going through. What is the action? So I said, don't ask me to tell you your destiny or your child's destiny. I'll tell you what changes you need to make. Person looked at me for a moment and said, why do you say that? And I told them this exact same answer. You want changes in your life? Do this. Life will anyways give you what it will give you. And when you come to that particular point in time, that will happen. Like one of the children is fairly unwell. And I said, too young at an age for you to know whether the child will survive or not. You put your best thinking that whatever will happen, will happen. You give the child your best. You don't know that 30 years later also the child might be here because of some actions that you take today. There is always that little bit of scope that is there. Yes, there are some clear-cut cases where you know that the child will not survive or the person will not survive or a certain way. This person accepted those recommendations so beautifully and said everything. I said, what are you taking away from this conversation? The person, obviously, son is speaking in Hindi, says, मैं सिर्फ ग्रहों को सेट करने पे काम करूंगा. So that I will go and make sure that I convince my grahas that I am doing everything in my power.
How beautiful.
And the rest of it, let it come.
That's a choice. That's a very powerful choice.
And he understood in the course of things that there is no point of sitting there and through Jyotish trying to peek into the future and then become too happy or too desperate about it. What you need to govern is your choices in the today. So look at your kundali, look at your grahas, look at somebody who's giving you a certain advice, whether spiritually, whether practically, physically. Take those actions. Change your thoughts, change your speech, change your choices, change your reactions, change your relationships. That's it. Just do that. Do you have any more time left? I don't think so. If you're focusing on those kind of changes, you won't have time to worry about anything else.
Very true. These small inner and outer reactions that we repeat every day are not just influencing moments. They really give you a solid direction. And
yes,
a thought was coming to my mind there, that can a person's entire destiny really change by just changing one daily habit or reaction?
Okay, so interesting question. Now, here is something that we need to go back and understand. When we bring a certain prarabdha to this world, do you have to live that prarabdha out completely? Yes, you have to. Right? So if you have 10 cosmic ups and 3 cosmic downs written in your life, or the other way around, will those happen? They will.
Okay.
They will. But how you respond to those could be very different. Right? Like many of us have read so many stories about the concentration camps and how some people survived and some did not. They all had similar destinies. And not that people who lost hope did not make it out. They also made it out, but they were in too bad a mental state to do anything. And then there are people like Viktor Frankl who did very well with who they were and how they were. And they went through with life. They went through with the choices that they made because understanding that between the stimuli and the reaction, they had a choice to make. So Viktor Frankl is one of those classical cases which says that he did not do anything to change his destiny, but how he faced life, he definitely made those choices within that. Right? Yes. Now that's a way that all of us need to understand life and then understand, can miracles happen? Miracles do happen. But for a miracle to happen, your God needs to smile at you, or your guru needs to smile at you, Or sometimes when you do absolute selfless action, somebody's prayer or blessings or love could completely change the course of your life. Can that happen? Yes, it does happen. Do you have a comparative standpoint to know it? Maybe, may not be. The only thing then you do is understand what our scriptures say, what our sages and learned people have said, and continue to do the good karma. Right? So, good karma towards self, others, the environment, that's what you need to do. And obviously, yes, leave the world a better place than what you found it. And we have to do that collectively also as a human race.
Yes, interesting that you mentioned Viktor Frankl, because just this morning I read about Dr. Kalapani. He was this medical doctor who was sent to Kalapani by the Britishers, where they wanted to break people. And this doctor wouldn't let that happen. And so, because he didn't have any equipment, he didn't have any kind of medicines, he just resorted to communication, to natural ways of keeping people alive. So he says, they've sent Indians here to break them down, to finish them. I'm going to keep them alive. And he worked on that. And marvelous ways he used to keep as many people alive and healthy as he could.
Indeed. In fact, the human race has done so many such things, like art many times has come to the rescue of the hopeless, or poetry or storytelling has sometimes cheered up. Like, what are we doing here in this podcast itself? We are trying to do a little bit of storytelling, give somebody action so that whoever watches this takes some action from here. All of that. So, beautiful story that you shared of Dr. Kalapani. And I think in the human history, we have a lot of these kind of beautiful examples of people doing whatever little they could do, right?
In
So
the
to close,
that they were.
yeah, absolutely. So the way to look at it is that in that scheme of things that is the macro of this world, God has a certain way that God's destiny needs to unravel. But within the micro, He's given us some chance to play around and see how we adapt or adopt to that. Right? If it's raining outside or if it's cold outside, you better dress like that when you get out. That's the most that you can do. Can you wish away the rain or the cold?
I that's why, think and want to present my next question to you, which is coming organically to me, that why then do we ignore these small wrong choices? And those are often the ones that damage our life the most.
Well, there could be a variety of reasons, and it really depends who it is that we are talking to. For each person, it's their own reason. But there are some common things that we need to understand from the kind of world that we live in today. One of the first and very critical things that we need to understand is the very world that it has become today. Materialistic, short-termistic, here and now, consumption-driven. And that has its own challenges. Everybody seems to be running around in a frenzy, right? Very little loyalty towards things or brands, or very little loyalty towards others, very little focus, very little attention, constant distraction of social media, phones, etc. So many of those things are deeply impacting. And that's a common reason for almost everybody. We have been fed stories constantly, right? And those stories are then taking its own toll on us. Now, within that, what has also happened is the family systems and culture and tradition, they have undergone a lot of assault by liberals,
Yes.
right? In the name of freedom, what a lot of liberal thought has fed the world today is non-adherence. For anything to be successful, it needs its structures and it needs its dynamics. You take away the structure of anything, it's not going to survive. Yeah? A plant is a plant because it has a certain trunk and a stem and whatever the structure of its leaves is. If you say that leaf can be anything on this plant, can it be so? But bring that logic to human life, they are now saying relationships can be anything, life can be anything. People are fundamentally, in the name of freedom, living with non-adherence, right? And the first thing that I said, the material life and the way it has been defined and the stories that we are being fed, it's then impacting this definition of non-adherence, right? Or for some people, non-adherence is like absolutely blatant. They want no structures. They want everything to be pulled down and broken and no barriers. In the name of experimentation, they want to do everything, right? Violate all sorts of social norms, religious norms, life's norms, etc. Right? In fact, there are so many people today who, who are very capable of solving this planet's problems, but they are dreaming of going to Mars, or they are dreaming of reversing their aging and becoming ageless. I mean, you have amazing amount of resources, and there are so many problems in this world that need attention. You're not focusing on that, but you're running after something. So people are like, kids with toys. So and that's a big one in the world today, that it's a world full of adults, but those adults are merely just toddlers trapped in an adult's body. And there's significant intellectual deterioration there. I'm not saying everyone is like that, but in each one of us, there is a toddler that is trapped in an adult's body, not doing the adult things or the responsible things. For some people, that equation is huge. For some people, it is minuscule. But including me, everybody, we have some of these bad habits. And that's where there is a dearth of samskaras and how we choose to be in this world. So with the world the way it is, the stories that are being fed, with so much of focus on non-adherence to structures, with the way we are still trapped as a little toddler in an adult's body, the place that suffers the most and has been suffering the most in the last 150 years is the deterioration of samskaras, value systems. I'm not saying there was some golden age where samskaras were all good, but yes, there was some times, and especially in the yugas that we talk about as the Satyuga, the Dwapara Yuga, etc., there were still those qualities, but then they've been deteriorating over a period of time. There are certain sections of our population where we used to focus so much on the Gurukula system, etc., where some of these samskaras were placed very firmly in you. But much of that education system is also lost, right? And that deterioration of the education system is also because of these us not being the real adults that we are supposed to be. As a nutshell, what happens? Samskaras deteriorate, and that's where the vasanas or our pravritti deteriorates, and that deteriorates, our karma deteriorates. That's the whole host of the story that we need to understand.
So there was a little thought that was coming to my mind. How many of these mistakes would be intentional, or would they be unconscious? I do gather that a lot of what we're doing is also happening because we're not connected to our roots as much as we would be, like you mentioned, the Gurukul system. But how much of it would really be intentional or just an unconscious act? You don't even
It's a lovely question if I look at it from only the perspective of the question itself. Whereas, when I look at it from the perspective of who the human race is, and we've been given one endowment that possibly is much better than any other species. It's the brain, the human brain. If where we are in our line of evolution, if we are still making unknown mistakes, then I think it is highly irresponsible.
Then it's intentional somewhere.
Absolutely. The shwasa or the breath in our body constantly functions. It doesn't say, should I or should I not be? I mean, you could be a sleep apnea patient, or you could have a restrictive pulmonary condition. Because of that, your breath may not happen, and that's a deviation. But in all other conditions, the breath will go on. The breath is not going to ask the question that should I breathe for this person or not? Should I flow for this person or not? The prana will not say, should I revolve or rotate? Yeah, we do things which reduces the prana, the breath, etc. Right?
True.
Just like that, our own consciousness, every individual's consciousness, every individual's alertness is that prana, the breath for our life. Right? You are supposed to constantly do it. You are not supposed to ask, should I or should I not? You're supposed to do it. So it's our duty to know about life. It's our duty to understand. It's our duty to discover what is the truth. Right? We need to know what we need to know about life. Now, the
Yeah.
equation that sort of spoils that,
I'm
right?
just delving on that statement that you said that we need to know what we need to know.
That's it. That's as simple as that.
We
Now,
should.
think of this, that if you were living in the forest or in the wild, and
Hmm.
if you had to fend for yourself, would you not discover which plant is poisonous, which is not, where to do the garbage disposal, where not to? I mean, people in the wild are also even careful where to store their food. Otherwise, a wild animal could smell that and come and in search of that food attack you. So you're supposed to know that. But the moment you put ourselves in society, what happens is we are so far away from the consequences of our choice. We have so many layers of cushioning, from parent attention to medical attention to assistance to this to that and the other. You're too far away from the consequence of your choices. So you
Yes.
have the luxury of not choosing these things or not finding things out. And you're living a stuck life. And yes, there is another bunch of people for whom life is pretty difficult. They have not got the endowments of life that many others have, and
Hmm.
in that materialistic world they are forced to then fight for sustenance.
Hmm.
So either there is a bunch of us living out of sheer arrogance and ignorance, or there is a bunch of us who's living out of struggles and ignorance. And sum total, what is happening, we are all walking around with a whole host of ignorance about who we are. Had
Hmm.
we had, and think about in those terms, most of us have heard the story of those uh, tribes which live in forest, in jungles, in the mountains. They're so conscious, they're so connected to their environment. They live very consciously.
Hmm.
Why? Because they don't have these fallback options that modern life has created.
Hmm.
So somewhere, because of all the layers of comfort and the isolation that we have from the consequences of our choice,
Hmm.
we do what we do. If every choice that we had was life and death, then would we continue to live like this? That's the question. So come back to your question. And while I said it's a brilliant question in itself, what is conscious and intentional or unintentional? But I would step back and say, from the perspective of the human race, we are supposed to know what we are supposed to know. And from a very young age, we are supposed to have that consciousness. And we are supposed to build that consciousness for our next generation. That's why
Yes.
we are a failed race today. Nor
So
are we
yeah, also for parents to light that consciousness in the child. It's dead with
parents,
parents, and therefore the child have
teachers, and all other parental figures, anyone who's in authority also, right? We are we are living in a world today which has made every non-trivial thing major,
Hmm.
and everything that we are majoring in possibly will have very little consequence in the existence and sustenance of the human race. But we are ignoring all those things, like values, like sustainability, like preservation, which will be very critical to the human race.
Yeah. Yeah. So when intention and action keep repeating in the same direction, it starts to solidify. And that is why very often we hear people say, I just feel stuck. I say that to myself sometimes.
Yeah. And then when 7.5 billion people around you are doing the same thing, your stuck patterns are only going to get enhanced further, because
Yeah.
it's the collective consciousness also. So while we are on this and we are talking about karma in daily life, we also have to understand that we are also living in an environment, which is why it is said that today, more than ever, we need people who are not just leading a beautiful life, but are inspiring others around them to get
To
unstuck and lead that life, because we are at a very critical precipice of
mm,
human history. We
mm.
have done more damage than we possibly could have handled ever in the history of life. And that's why some people even say that we are far, far ahead of the point of no return.
Mm. But there's still hope. There's
Well,
still hope.
karma, and let's see the
Yes,
rest.
yes. So I just feel that. So actually, I must ask you this question: that a lot of people are feeling stuck in repeating patterns. Now, is this just karma, or are these unexamined habits? How can they break out of it?
So I would simply say that before you look at and question the macro, you need to understand that you are under the influence of the macro. So if you are experiencing a certain stuckness, certain set of challenges, understand that either from your previous lifetimes or the sum total of your life is contributing to it. Okay. Just like, a couple of days back, I was having a very interesting conversation with a friend of mine. And this friend of mine is taking a slightly long course of treatment in Ayurveda. I was just 2 days, 3 days into the treatment. The person was saying, "Oh my God, what if all of these symptoms which I'm getting a relief from comes back?" My response to that was that look at who you are and where you are in your life. You spent some 40 plus years on earth, and there are some of these patterns which really have spoiled your health and they need to be knocked out of your system. Give the choice of treatment that you have taken at least that much time to settle in. At least for the 40 years of your life, give it 40 days
40 days.
to get out of your system. Can Ayurveda reset things? Yes, it will. Can it reset everything? No, it will not. Right? So somewhere you have to also participate by changing habits. Right? So the macro applies, but we can influence the micro at some point in time. What could you do? Here are a few things that you could do. You could focus on proactively managing your life. Can you? Absolutely, you can. Where does my life need to go? What do I need to do? How do I need to stay healthy? How do I need to eat to be better? How do I need to learn? How do I need to grow my capability? You can do some of that, right? Could I do better by facing some uncomfortable things I'm not facing in my life? Everybody has something or the other that is uncomfortable. They're not solving. They're just hoping for some miracle, magical thinking, as they say. Can you look at that? Yes, you can. Are there incomplete things that you have around you? Yes, you can complete those. Complete those then. And if they're going to stay incomplete and they're not relevant to you, then remove them from your life. Right? Whether it is an unread book that has been lying there or an unsolved relationship issue that is there, or there is some other thing which you have left incomplete. If it's no more relevant to your life, then cut it out, clean the space, clean the clutter. So changes can be made at so many levels. And again, the frame of reference is macro and micro. Whenever we are going through something, yes, is there an impact of the macro? Yes, there is. Can you do anything to change the macro? Not in the short term period. Is there a micro involved in it? Yes, there is. Can you change something about the micro? Absolutely, yes, you can. So in whatever is happening, whether it is you feeling stuck or somebody else is unwell, or whether somebody is too far behind in their career, if you're not beyond the point of no return, you always can make changes and recover in that situation. And if you're in a point of beyond the point of no return, then highly likely a new start can be there. I read something somewhere a few days back which said the right time to plant a tree was 25 years back.
The next day is today.
Next day is today. So look, the change has to be made at some point in time. You didn't make it when it was supposed to be made. It's all right. You think about it and accept it the way it is. Plant a tree today and then wait for 25 years and take care of the tree so that you can get the fruits.
We're talking about trees as some of the largest plantations are being wiped out from the face of the earth.
And those collective consequences will come to us.
Will come. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
So just thinking now, because these patterns that all of us have are built slowly, they get reinforced gradually. And we barely, sort of register them as mistakes. It's just a little pattern and it's become habitual for us. If, we could talk a little about these silent micro mistakes that we make every day.
Sure.
How they kind of, turn into big problems. What is their relationship with karma?
Yeah. So going back to something that we had spoken about a little earlier, that the 5 kind of karmas that we need to look at. For all of us, if we want to preserve our positive habits, or if we want to change our negative habits or the harmful habits, again, my encouragement is go back and for each one of these, look at the aspect of thought, look at the aspect of speech, look at the aspect of the choices that it's making, look at the aspect of reactions, and look at the relational aspect or the relationship aspect of these habits. And work on changing each one of these. That's one way that change can be made. If change is not approached from all of these 5 angles, then there will be a problem, right? And that's the question of the how that you go about these changes. But what are some of those common things? And again, for each individual, these could be a whole plethora of micro habits, but there are some very common things that we in today's world have come around to suffer from. One of them is the hurry syndrome. Almost everybody is like in a hurry today. Hurry, hurry, hurry. I want this faster, that faster. I want to do this faster. Nobody wants to go deep and give time. That's one pattern that we may want to examine and change. Very important. Hurrying through things. What that is also creating is a lot more people are reacting now than thinking. Judging more than being curious, right? That needs to change for a lot of people. And it's a very common thing again. Because you are too much in the hurry, you are then reacting, you are not thinking. You are then judging, you are not really curious. That needs to change. So those micro habits need to change. And everything associated with it, the thought, the speech, the reaction, the choices, the relationships, everything needs to change. Similarly, there's one too many people who are choosing comforts over growth, right? And even those who are choosing some sort of discomfort, are you really choosing the proper discomfort? Like a very simple thing. You want to exercise, your AC is running full blast and it's not allowing you to sweat. What's the point of exercising but not sweating? Because sweat is also a way to get the toxins out of your system.
Yes.
Right? So it's good to use technology. It's good to use comforts and features to a certain extent. But when they start killing the evolutionary gains that we have made, then it's a point of no return. So one too many people are uncomfortable with writing things today. Why? Because they're too used to typing or they are too used to their screen keyboard. You're losing something evolutionarily developed by thousands of generations of the human life. Right? Similarly, avoiding difficult conversations is there, or neglecting self-care, ignoring red flags about life. These are all very common patterns of modern life. Almost every single person, whether you're career-oriented or you are a homemaker or you are a student, you're going through this again and again and again. And much of that needs to be examined and changed, because these are the micro habits of life which are deeply destroying who we are. And instead of that, what do you need to do? You need to start pausing before reacting, facing uncomfortable situations about life, having honest conversations, working deeply on your own self, along with breadth, focus on depth in life. Very important changes to make. All of this is shaping our karma and our destiny.
So my attention dwelt on speech, because that's how we communicate with people.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to understand, how does the way we speak, say even casually, become karma?
The easiest for us to understand is, one too many of us are busy not listening
True.
and talking. I think let's just start there. We have become a race that is predominantly obsessed with speaking up. Just because you have a thought doesn't mean that the thought is worth sharing. Just because if you have an idea doesn't mean that that idea is good for self, others, and the environment. Right? So this predominant obsession with speaking and not listening, I think that's the first place where we are severely impacting.
True.
And as a consequence of that, what happens is we forget to build on others. Right? The world today uses big words like collaboration and support and support systems. But in a conversation, you are incapable of discovering what the other person is truly saying and building on that point. If you can't build in a conversation, where will you build in life?
Very true.
right? And then you have interesting tools like judgment, assessment. There are people who pride that in the first look I can assess and say this person is like this, or the person speaks two words and I know where the person is coming from, or everything that you are talking about I have done in my past. There's so many of these absolutely grandiose gestures that we are living, right? Everybody knows. Everybody is a Gyani in today's world. Everybody is a Gyani without practice, without experience. They're all Gyani. They have read books. They have read things. You ask them, they will tell you the name of 20 books, the content of pretty much 15 of those, the finer lines of maybe 10 of those. But you ask them, how much of this have you really practiced in life? Mastery. So then comes speech without mastery. Right? So if you ask me, and I can go on, but I think predominantly these are some big challenges that we have that we need to get rid of, because each of these is creating challenging karmas for us. When we speak and not listen, creates karma, bad karma, right? Within that,
Example, could you illustrate it perhaps for our listeners?
somebody was okay. So I have a few doctor friends. They say that treating people has become extremely tough these days. I said, why? Say everybody is coming after looking at WebMD and Google and ChatGPT, and when you tell them that you have to go like this in your treatment, everybody is saying, "But sir, ChatGPT told me that this is what it is doing." Now I took this example as you're sitting in front of a clinical practitioner who you have paid a fees and gone to, right? And possibly the person has 15, 20 years of seeing thousands and thousands of patients and knowing the subtle difference between symptom A and symptom B or a combination. And then you're trying to give gyan to that person, right? Now, many people do this not just to doctors, they do this with teachers, they do this with bosses, they do this with coaches, mentors, they do this even with their spiritual gurus. People are so busy even judging gurus these days, right? Now, the point is, if you were so capable that you didn't need to listen, you could speak, then either you should have been the doctor, the teacher, the boss, or the guru, or the mentor, or the coach that you are interpreting now, isn't it? So you decide where are you. People forget which side they are on, right? And then we glorify that everybody must have an opinion. Opinion about what? If you're not experienced in something, if you're not expert in something, why do you need to have an opinion in that? You need to absorb. You need to observe and absorb. Right? Understand? Can you relate to this? It's happening all around us. And it's not just happening with the doctor. It's happening all around us. Everybody is a Gyani. Everybody thinks that they know better than the other person, no matter how qualified that the other person is. Then if you're so qualified, then why do you need the other person? Go do what it is. Go treat yourself. Go coach yourself. Go be your own boss. Go be your own guru. But no, you need them. Why do you need them? Because you have no damn clue of what you're talking, but you want to talk. Right? I'm taking a very radical example because this is making people suffer. In fact, in schools today, children have been given so much of entitlement that teachers are scared to put a structure around them in the name of liberal education. Anyway, so there must be some utility to some of these changes, but we're taking it too far.
Vak karma. Yeah. So yes, I understand that these small words or these small choices that we make quietly create negative karma. And what makes me more interested is then that the opposite also must be very true. So what if we flip the lens? And I just want to then ask you, how do small acts of kindness or small disciplines, the things that we quietly build, how do they form a different karmic future for people? There are enough people around us who do these very tiny things, from an auto wala to somebody opening up something to take care of the abandoned cows, the abandoned animals, pets, people,
Hmm.
their own parents.
Yeah.
How does it build a different karmic future for people?
Well, there's some comment that I want to make on the example that you just gave, but then let's understand this in a very simple way. We've all had piggy banks as we were growing up.
Hmm.
You put a coin every day into the piggy bank, over a period of time, the piggy bank becomes full,
True. Hmm.
isn't it? So think about karma like that. If you're directionally supposed to do the right karma, right? But you also have to understand that some of this karma needs to be done with the consciousness of, that announcement that is there in the aircraft. Before you put the oxygen mask on somebody else, put the oxygen mask on your own self.
Hmm.
So the starting of positive karma has to be with the karmas that is towards your own self. Are you taking care of your own health, your own education, your own deeds, and then doing things for others? You cannot be that quintessential social worker in the Hindi movies of the 60s and 70s who doesn't have a chappal on his or her feet and is carrying a fata jhola and hardly has any dress or food in their stomach. Their own children are starving and you're out there to improve society. That cannot be good karma. You're going to only create more negative karma from that kind of karma. Right? So let's be very clear. And that's why I said I have a comment to make, because one too many people today, in the name of karuna for animals or karuna for somebody else, they are out to do social work where their own life is a complete mess. There are many people today who are choosing to rescue others because they did not have somebody to rescue them. And they are refusing to heal, and they're doing those acts of rescue in a state of being broken, only to discover that their bitterness is only increasing over a period of time. I'm not saying all cases are like those, but there are enough and more cases that I have seen where there is this truth. So, very simply, in the positive karma, the first set of positive karmas that we need to take is a look at our own swadharma, to our own self, right? Our own education, our own capability, our own ability, our own independence, our own sustenance, and then look at all the Vishesha dharmas that we have or the Manusha dharmas that we have and live by those. Right? And then we have certain rinas towards Deva, Rishi, etc. And I've covered some of these concepts in some of my earlier talks. Look at all of those. So if you are in that sequence, first attending to all your swadharmas and you're attending to the dharmas which are your Vishesha dharmas and your chosen Vishesha dharmas of life, sequentially you will build a lot of positive karma. And what's happening is, with every penny that you put into the piggy bank, what's happening is the prarabdha, the bank account that you have, that's getting reset. So your positive karmas will then nullify some of the negative outcomes or results or impacts that you were supposed to get. That's how karma works. But mind it, what I said, you have to be sure that you do what is important first. And you could be guided by a good Jyotishacharya to say, what do you need to work on? How do you need to heal, etc. But the very common sense thing to understand is you work on your own self. You cannot be emotionally broken and taking care of somebody else. You cannot be financially broken and taking care of somebody else. You cannot be physically broken and trying to take care of somebody else. And all of this starts with your physical and mental existence. First, take care of your physical and mental existence, and then your intellectual ability, being able to win your bread, take care of your life, be independent, and then attend to all your Vishesha dharmas. And then start making those additional choices to do the additional good. You cannot be doing the additional good if you're harming the basic dharmas of your life.
True.
Right? Your wife or husband is not taken care of and you're going and taking care of animals. What good is that? First do that. Then if you have time, then you do it. And if that cause is so important to you, make time and do it. Make a life and ecosystem in such a way that nobody that you have in your life is suffering for the choices that you're making. Otherwise, it is very selfish.
True.
Right? Like I often say this, that you have 500 rupees and you have 3 people who work for you who could each use 150 rupees each. Instead of giving that 450 rupees to the 3 people that you're working, you take the 500 and give it to God. God doesn't need those 500 bucks. You're trying to do that charity in the name of selfishness to your own self. First, give those 150 to those 3 people who work for you, and then the 50 that is left, go offer it to God if you really want, if you have that compulsion. It's a much better way of getting karma rather than starving those 3 people who work for you of that money
Yeah.
and go and drop it in a hundi in a temple or a church or somewhere.
So true. So true. What an enriching description. Suddenly karma feels far less abstract, a lot more workable, and a lot lesser to fear in a way. So one last question, Dada, before we close our podcast
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
What I want to ask you is, if someone wants to now improve their karma starting today, after having heard our discussion, what are the simplest 3 or 5 daily steps that they can take?
Lovely question. And I would say the one part of our conversation which is the most critical is for them to go back to that part where we spoke about the 5 ways that karma gets formulated: the thoughts, the speech, the choices, the reactions, and the relationship. I think instead of giving them 4, 5 steps to do or things, just go back and examine the deficit, the negativity, the problematic aspects of your thought, speech, choices, reactions, and relationships. Just correct that. That's it. Make absolute simple steps. And within that also, like I said, just right now for response to your last question, first, do things for your own self. Get your physical condition proper, get your mental and emotional condition to be well tuned, get your capability fine tuned so that you can be independent and fend for yourself. And then after that comes everything else. Don't waste time. We have no time to waste. In fact, there are so many people wondering and being called lazy, etc. Actually, what's happening is they just don't have that focus on doing what's really in front of them. There are one too many people today feeling I am stuck in life because I don't have some illusionary purpose, some larger than life purpose. And it's become a little bit of a style statement because of all these influencers and so-called successful entrepreneurs who are coming out there and say, face your passion, follow your passion, this, that, and 99.99% of the people don't know what they're passionate about. And even if they knew that they're passionate about something, they don't know if it's going to sustain their life before going all of there. Some of the small little things of life, starting with your own self and around you, making you independent, making your family independent. Those are the immediate things that each of us need to work through. As you work through that, like I said, you whisper to life, life will whisper back to you. You smile at life, life will smile back at you. You surrender to life, life will take your hands and walk you forward. Try that. Right? If you think it is otherwise, then you really don't know what Newton's third law, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, makes sense. Our greats have said, you take one step towards God, God takes the rest 9 steps towards you.
Yes, so powerful. And I'm so glad you brought this entire piece back. We had discussed this earlier and you brought it back. But thank you so much, Dada, for lending so much clarity to this concept. It's by no means simple, but it suddenly seems so much doable. There's so much in our hands. I just feel the supreme powers given us so much to improve our karma, to live a good life. There's so much we have, and we're not using it. So yes, I hope our listeners, our viewers, our subscribers have something to take back today.
Indeed.
All thanks to you. Thank you.
And thanks to you and the team that's doing this work of compiling all the questions and having conversations. So definitely that really helps. So thank you so much for picking this topic. And I think we'll see everybody very soon with another one of these set of questions that you guys are compiling.
Thank you so much for your time, Dada.
Thank you for your time. And thank you to all our listeners.
Yes. And to all our viewers, thank you so much for being with us, for constantly giving us your feedback. We love it. Please do tell us what you would like to listen to, and we will come back to you with that format sometime. But that's all for today. Thank you for your time. Dada Pranam once again.
Jai Mahakal, Jai Mahakali.
Jai Mahakal, Jai Mahakali. Pranam.